Tell me if you've heard this story or one similar to it before. A broke college student received a Nintendo 64 as a gift. He was stoked to play all his favourite childhood games, so he did. Drove around to various garage sales picking up games and controllers before stumbling upon one just off house. Something was wrong, but he couldn't quite figure out why. There was an old man with a bunch of loose junk on a table outside his house. When asked if he had any games, he said he'd be
back in a jiffy.
He returned with a scuffed copy of what was most likely Majora's Mask, given the sharpied on Majora on the otherwise labelless cartridge. The old man was polite despite his off-putting demeanour, and let the student take the game for free. As he was leaving, the old man said, "Goodbye then," though it sounded a lot more like
"Goodbye, Ben."
And sure enough, on that cartridge was a save file labelled Ben. Must have been a kid the old man knew, a son, grandson, nephew, and so on. What seemed like a relatively normal copy of Majora's Mask at first, soon started to bug out in minor ways. Characters would use the wrong name, calling Link Ben, despite not being on that save file. The student left it there out of respect, but then it started to mess with his game, so he had to get rid of it, which fixed nothing. Instead, Link would sometimes just be called nothing. Then he tried to do a glitch, the 4th day glitch, which prevented the moon from falling on the 3rd day. That moment let all hell break loose, as he was haunted by an unnerving statue presumed to be Ben, a boy who drowned. That was the condensed version of the now famous story known as The Haunted Cartridge, or better known as Ben Drowned. I remember in the early 2010s, I was obsessed with Ben Drowned. I watched everything I could about him, and of course, went on a ghost hunt, playing Majora's Mask, anxiously excited to finally catch him, to prove that Ben was haunting the game, lurking somewhere within the code. Of course, he wasn't, because he wasn't real. The Haunted Cartridge is a masterfully crafted piece of online horror, and I'm choosing my words very carefully here, because if you're a fan of the show, you'd know that this isn't the first time I've talked about this. Ben Drowned is a much bigger saga, one that is frankly terrible. I could talk for ages about the lorification of online horror, but I'll spare you the headache and just say there is something magical about that original story and the accompanying video. Something so believable, multi-layered, grounded, a real-life ghost story unfolding in front of your eyes, and it was just that. A ghost story. A young boy who loved the game unfortunately drowned in some accident and now haunts it. There is something so tragic about it all. When you read it more as a lonely child playing pranks on an unsuspecting person, not so much a malicious spirit, but a bored trickster. Ghosts are uniquely tragic, as far as horror monsters go. A person taken from us too early with unfinished business, forced into a purgatory where all they can do is haunt. Ben is one of those tragic figures, or was, and as a result, I don't see that strange figure that haunted my mind. When I look at Ben, all I see is an old friend. Video games are a very unique medium. They are complete constructions of reality, artificial at every level, but they are a reality, one that can be explored, one where new things can be discovered decades later. A film can have Easter eggs, it can have unsolved mysteries, but it can't really hide anything in its linear sequence of images. You can never flip the camera around, explore the background. Sure, a film can be recut, but at that point it is something fundamentally new, a different work. Video games try to emulate living, breathing worlds, and therefore they are perfect for secrets. No genre shows this better than open worlds. Open world is a genre that is generally supposed to be fun. They are sandboxes by nature, designed with experimentation and exploration in mind. You are not supposed to be scared in Grand Theft Auto. You are not supposed to be terrified in Breath of the Wild. Yet, that open world nature also adds to this feeling that anything could be hidden within. That there are corners, nooks and crannies yet to be turned over, yet to be seen, where only God knows what could be in it. Another factor is, well, age. Early GTA games are old, and technology is limited, and therefore not every area can be given the same attention, the same detail. Not every location can be so densely packed, leading to just this feeling, this emptiness. If I was a YouTuber who made a living talking about real-life crimes and tragedies as if they were creepypastas, right about now I'd overlay a VHS filter and call this feeling Liminality. I don't think I need to. The isolation speaks for itself. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is a game where its primary concern can be understood as satire and also being really fucking cool to a young adult in 2004. It's all about crimes and gangs and hitting the gym and getting fucking swole and shooting 2 SMGs at once. It's awesome and edgy and satirical and the opposite of scary. It is, in many cases, a power fantasy where you take over an entire state with your criminal enterprise and epic murder skills. That, however, is the narrative of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the written and intended experience. But I want to introduce a concept I call Ludonarrative Takeover. I define this as the moment the game's story stops mattering. This can be seen in something like rampaging, which the GTA games are known for. Something that never makes any sense for any of its characters to be doing. However, there is a second type of ludonarrative takeover, and for that, we have to explore southwestern San Andreas, Flint County. This is one of the most fascinating areas in the game, because while there, if away from your car and radio, just taking in the ambience, it reads less like a crime game and more like Silent Hill, with its rolling mist and howling wind being the only thing to keep you company. You can imagine how with all this, a 480i screen with alias graphics and low render distance, how a child's mind could run wild. This era of digital ghosts shares less in common with modern creepypasta and more in common with traditional urban legends, where you would tell your buddies that you saw something in the fog, something hiding behind the trees, and you would all spend hours anxiously exploring, only to find nothing. This is the takeover. As CJ stops mattering, he is no longer a character, a representation of a person, one with motivations. Instead, he is just an avatar, the method you use to navigate the isolating eeriness of southwestern San Andreas. A subculture formed around the game, one that says there are hundreds of monsters within its countryside waiting to be found, from serial killers to movie characters to classic horror monsters. But none are as famous as Bigfoot. Bigfoot is not in San Andreas. Some consider it still possible, but it's not. There is nothing within those woods. Or is there? Yes, yeah. Kinda. So, okay, imagine for a second. You're exploring this eerie forest. You are completely alone, and then suddenly, you see a beat-up car. You get closer and see there is no one in it, yet they are driving. These are the San Andreas ghost cars, and they're real? Sorta? This is a unique ambient vehicle, one that spawns already beat up. It's a Glendale car, which in the game files is called Glen Shit. These cars aren't haunted, but are instead just a property of the physics engine, as they spawn on hills. So they roll down the hill, and it looks like they're driving on their own. Rockstar has acknowledged the myth culture surrounding San Andreas, and they've done it twice, both with a very direct message. In both Undead Nightmare and Grand Theft Auto 5, Rockstar basically said that, okay, so if we actually added Bigfoot to the game, what are you gonna do? Shoot him? And yeah, in a game like this, where your only real method of interaction with NPCs is attack them or ignore them, that is kinda it. In Undead Nightmare, the Sasquatch laments that they're the last of their kind, treated like a monster when they're really just people. To some degree, it speaks to the oddity of Bigfoot as a horror creature, like a big gorilla man? That's the most iconic, spooky, tall tale from this game's community. And in Grand Theft Auto 5, it's an erotic Bigfoot roleplayer who gets off on dressing up as him and quotes the Sasquatch.
Make it stop, human.
Man, shut the fuck up with that bullshit. What the fuck is wrong with you running around the woods in a costume?
I'm the last of my kind.
You fucking freak.
Hey, I'm no freak. It's perfectly normal to admit to being aroused role-playing dressed as a fantastical beast.
What the fuck was that?
What do you want it to be?
That's the most GTA 5 fucking sentence in the world. I know you might be thinking, Kai, Big Ape Silly Walkman is not a ghost, and you're right, but it is one of the most iconic examples of these digital urban legends. But it is interesting in the sense that this rumor is only about a possible NPC in a video game, something placed there intentionally. What I'm really here to talk about are the myths that speak to a greater presence. You may have noticed something. I hunted Ben Drowned like these players hunted Bigfoot, and that is strange, because within the story, it is the haunted cartridge. It is not a story about something hidden in Majora's Mask, but instead, just a specific copy of the game. So what was I looking for? You see, Ben wasn't just a ghost in a game. He was a ghost of the internet, a spectre haunting the wires. During the initial story, Ben essentially leaves the game through the wired connections the player, Deducible, used to document the haunting, letting him leak out into the wider internet. We can see this first with the implication that Ben himself was messing with the channel, making fake posts with false information to imply that Deducible was in a better situation than he actually was. Ben uploaded a tampered document, a document that was originally supposed to detail Deducible's experience with the haunting, alluding to videos we never saw, thanks to Ben's interference. And it's the downloading of this document that supposedly let Ben free onto the internet. I didn't just hunt Ben in a game, but I hunted him on the internet. There is one part of Ben Drowned that I think is frankly genius. In that document I mentioned earlier, the truth.rtf, Deducible details conversations he had with Ben through the website Cleverbot. As a result, many people went to the website and started asking for Ben and saying creepy Ben things. Because the bot learned from user input, it meant that if you visited the website at the time, for a moment, it was like Ben was real. And so, all those years ago, I spoke to a ghost. Over and over. Nearly 15 years later, it doesn't seem like Cleverbot is all too interested in being a ghost anymore, though it was deeply nostalgic to return to the website. In an era of ChatGPT destroying the environment and like art, it's just kinda nice to talk to a decade-old robot. It's kinda like a ghost itself, a ghost of a better time for technology, when things were fun and novel and it was easier to ignore the tech dystopia writing on the wall. It is interesting to be so nostalgic for a ghost, for a spirit, but it represents something greater, a phantasm of a bygone naive era of the internet, back when naivety was fun, and it wasn't your grandpa trying to fuck an AI-generated woman with 3 heads on Facebook. I understand that nostalgia is blinding, that we have a positive bias for the past, a negative bias for the present, and a fear of the future. Maybe in a time where everything is terrifying, it's just comforting to look at something as simple as a ghost. Back when your biggest worry was your computer getting haunted. Ben Drowned was so effective. Sometimes I look back on it in awe at how perfect it was. It is still the de facto ARG to me. When I look at modern ARGs, I feel a sense of disappointment. Maybe I'm just cynical now, but so many new internet horror projects lack that believability, lack that immersion, and frankly, so does Ben Drowned. I'll spare you the rant, but as I mentioned in an earlier video, Ben Drowned shat the bed? Like, it's bad. Deducible reanimated this old corpse a decade after it ended, and all I can think is how the most haunting thing about it is how truly terrible it is. I don't think I'll ever get over the shonen storytelling and fucking credits raw. Okay, so tell me how I'm just noticing this now. In his fucking credits, he credits Tim Pool.
A crystal flute.
And Joe Rogan.
Bum crap from a poo ass.
What the fuck? I thought this was a joke at first, but looking at his Twitter activity, I I don't think it is. For the longest time, I've been searching for that feeling. The feeling Ben Drowned gave me all those years ago. 4 years ago, one of my favorite channels, Cybershell, released a video called The Game Most Like a Creepypasta. Unfortunately, it wasn't The Sopranos on PS2, still upset, but instead it was a Sonic fan game that was essentially malware. One that tried to prevent you from breaking it open and seeing all their precious original characters do not steal. So if it detects cheating and the like, it freaks out and causes spooky things to happen and takes your IP address to possibly blacklist you. Fun stuff. However, this is just malware? Not really what I'm looking for. Certain games try to offer you that haunted experience. Take Doki Doki Literature Club, which offers that creepypasta feel, but instead of a ghost, it's a rogue AI, which I just generally find less compelling, because, well, you can just delete a program. I have a fair number of issues with Doki Doki Literature Club, but I'll spare that for another day. Other games try to recreate specific stories. This is your Sonic.exe, which isn't what I'm looking for either, because that is just silly. Sonic.exe makes me laugh, and his weird resurgence as a popular character for children is also just strange. Side note, while researching for this video, I found people referencing a specific rendition of the game, and in the comments there was the creator of it begging the players to disable Windows Defender. Yeah, you heard that right. Not just their antivirus, fucking Windows Defender. Not just allow the game, disable it entirely. If someone asks you to do this for their game, don't! But then again, the target demographic for Sonic.exe is children, so they did it anyway. Also, I have learned so much insane shit about Sonic.exe. Oh my god, what the fuck? Hit that fucking like button if you want a video on Snock the Executable. Many artists and writers have tried to revitalize Sonic.exe, make him into something greater, but they all run into the simple issue that scary Sonic is a really dumb idea, and the way he is portrayed is always extremely over the top and silly. So unfortunately, EXE games are out. Sorry, Toy Story EXE. You aren't the ghost I'm looking for. Though, there is one more I could try. On July 7th, 2010, an Infiniminer clone by the name of Minecraft made a very interesting change. The game is already considered eerie. The nights were pitch black outside of your torches, which barely illuminated anything thanks to the primitive lighting system. The deep fog that enveloped your entire view unless you had a good computer. Glowing red eyes stalk you in the dark. And then this. Cave sounds. When digging deep into the world and exploring caves, every now and again you have the chance to hear something horrifying in an otherwise quiet world. The lack of traditional ambience only adds to the atmosphere. As Retro Gaming Now points out, people didn't understand Minecraft 15 years ago. It didn't have the densest wiki in the world, all the help, tutorials and friendly UI. It was a cold, mysterious game that would change nearly every time you opened it, thanks to the constant updates. It was also deeply lonely. There was no one else, just you, your surroundings, some out-of-place farm animals, and the undead, leading to this strange, abstract, dream-like atmosphere with impossible lands, questionable animal choices, and this. Your only company being the threatening sound of zombies groaning, zombies that look just like you. Then there are these sounds. Some imply life. Some imply unknown creatures, and some are so strange and abstract they hint at something otherworldly. Early Minecraft hinted at life. Despite being the only person around, there are mine shafts and other structures, implying a people that once were. And then there were the music discs, 13 and 11, which were recorded by someone. They contain the sounds of people living in this world and presumably also dying in it. Hidden within the image on an upload of Music Disc 13 was a secret pair of white eyes. These white eyes would be the basis for Herobrine. Herobrine is, I think, my favourite digital ghost. He is such an effective urban legend because his foundations are within Minecraft itself. It plays off the atmosphere, the hints of something greater, the strange happenings. The developers themselves toy with the idea. Unlike Ben, Herobrine could technically be out there, somewhere. Just imagine for a second exploring your Minecraft world and then suddenly a forest devoid of leaves, a tunnel with torches, unexplainable sounds behind you. This was an era of houses people did not build, strange visuals and hoaxes everywhere, one of which played off how weird and dreamlike Minecraft was at the time and implied Steve was in a fantasy world in his mind. We have a Minecraft server now. I would implore you to join it. You can join by joining the Discord first. But we recently installed a Herobrine mod and it has been some of the most fun I've ever had. It genuinely feels like I'm playing the haunted game the 2010s promised me. Herobrine acts perfectly, a stalker, not a combatant. Jump scares are scarce if you can even call them that. Side note, he is obsessed with me and I keep getting screenshots of people showing how he is just always following me specifically around. I love catching him in third person, seeing him in the corner of my eye. When I was capturing B-roll for this section, I forgot I had the mod still installed and got actually jump scared like a little baby. It's nice. I'm not scared of Herobrine. When I see him, when many people see him, all they can think about is a simpler time, hours wasted searching for him. And now, he's here. He's like a reminder of a Minecraft we once had, a pseudo-horror game with a rich, strange atmosphere. I'm not one of those people who pretend that old Minecraft was better, because it wasn't, not necessarily. But something has been lost, something I think Mojang are trying to capture, but are failing to do so. Okay, so there is a lot to talk about, a lot, but I still haven't found what I'm looking for. This is at the end of the day, a mod. I had planned to talk about Minecraft PS1, a surprisingly impressive alternate universe for Minecraft, one that cleverly mixes things together from different eras and platforms of Minecraft to create a truly weird, out-of-time console edition. Unfortunately, it has one too many shark jumps, annoying creatures it could do without. Still, that's a mod too. Is there any game that could be considered haunted? Well, I think I have the answer, and it's not what you'd expect. It would also take a little bit too long, and I'm already behind schedule thanks to putting my big video on hold. You see, I've recently discovered something lurking within one of my favorite games of all time. So join me in the future as I crack the game open. I'm not entirely sure when I will, but I know I'll have to. I've been trying to make smaller videos in between the big ones. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's not my finest work, but that's fine. Sometimes you need something small. That's what she said. I've been Kai from Kai's Home for Aspiring Vampires. Is The Office still relevant? I would just like to thank patrons Sammy3D, Hyperwaffles, It's June, Gamma Freya, Saxon, and Legit History. Thank you all so much. Oh God.